On the mountain, in the valley, in the crowded streets, or the empty desert, in our hope and in our waiting, we are never alone. God is with us.
Okay, so I've got just a few minutes here tonight to do something. And for those of you who haven't been able to join us on Sunday mornings, we've been going through what's called a sermon series, and we've been looking at these words here, God with us. And that's actually Jesus' name, Emmanuel, in Hebrew. So you're already technically speaking Hebrew when you say Emmanuel. And I want to wrap that conversation up tonight by talking about fear. I'm not talking about the right kinds of fears that kind of make you cautious on the edge of a rooftop, right? Or make you drive really, really slow in the middle of a snowstorm, right? I'm talking about the kinds of fears that keep you restlessly tumbling at night, lying awake, or the kinds of fears that penetrate your thoughts throughout the day and you can't seem to focus on your work or your family or anything. Can I ask you, are you fearful tonight? Are you afraid of yet another fight with your spouse? Or maybe are you afraid of not having a spouse? Are you afraid you'll never heal of the pain from what you lost? Or maybe you'll never heal from the pain of something you never had? Are you afraid of what may be coming down the road now that the doctor has called and said, yeah, the results don't look good? Guys, you know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of my life not amounting to anything more than a collection of gratified, selfish desires. I'm afraid of messing up my marriage and my kids. If you know my kids, I've already done my part. I'm afraid of messing my marriage up and my kids up because I can't seem to get the work-life balance right. I'm fearful. Are you? Are you afraid? Corrie Ten Boom is an evangelical Christian who lived during the era of the Nazi regime, and she is said to have saved at least 800 Nazi or Jewish refugees. And she was later on arrested by Nazis and then imprisoned in a concentration camp where her own sister died. You can read her story in what's a book called The Hiding Place. But this woman, you think she'd know a little bit about fear? You think she'd be considered an expert on the topic, right? This is what she wrote on fear. She said, worry is a cycle of inefficient thoughts whirring around a center of fear. Worry does not empty tomorrow of its sorrows. It empties today of its strength. And these kinds of fears, the ones that penetrate our thoughts during the day, that keep us up late at night wrestling, these kinds of fears don't necessarily fit under the category of faith, right? They actually fit better under the category of atheism. You're not believing God in those things. And tonight, I want to end this series called God with Us with a quick word on how God with us can kill all fear. On how God with us can make us fearless. All right, so I want to give you some what I call fighting words. Yes, the Bible has some fighting words. You put up your dukes and you go to war with them, right? Words that I believe you should paint on the walls of your home and, Lord willing, by God's grace, chisel them into the tablets of your mind and heart. It's just one verse. Isaiah 41:10. Do not be afraid. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will help you. I will strengthen you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. That's it. One verse, and it's a fountain overflowing with joy. Guys, there's two commands in that one verse, right? Two commands. Do not fear, and do not be dismayed. To be fearful is to be terrified or frightened, to be afraid. To be dismayed in the Hebrew actually means where your eyes are darting around you, looking for a safe place to hide, but you can't find one. And you're anxious. And you know what's hard about this verse is it doesn't actually qualify what to not be afraid of or not be dismayed by, right? It just says, don't fear, don't be dismayed, just don't do it. So that's the message tonight. Just don't do it, right? That's it. Does that help? Did that put your fears to rest? Just don't do it. You know what that sounds like? Some of you will probably get this. It sounds like Bob Newhart, right? He's got a comedy skit on I think it's on Comedy Central, and it's clean. And this woman comes to him asking for help because she's afraid she's going to be buried alive. And he says, I've got two words for you. Stop it! S-T-O-P, new word, I-T. Stop it! God's a wee bit better of a counselor, is he not? In fact, he's called the wonderful counselor. Because because God doesn't just tell us what not to do or do, right? He doesn't just give us the commands. They don't hang in the air with no basis in reality. If God is commanding us to do something, there are good reasons to do it. And the power to obey those commands come from understanding and believing the reasons for those commands. So God gives us 5 reasons why we don't have to be afraid. Just 5. In one verse. 2 commands, 5 reasons why. It says, do not fear. Why? For I am with you. It says, do not anxiously look about you. Why? Because I am your God. I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Just personalize that for a second. Make it about, make it you, right? I won't fear. I won't be dismayed. Why? Because God is with me. Because God is my God. God will strengthen me. God will help me. God will uphold me. And guys, can't you see where God is in relation to you in all of these promises? It says God is with us. Okay, so he is by our side. God is our God, meaning he is over us in all his sovereignty and power. God will strengthen us, meaning he is inside of us, empowering us. God will help us, meaning he is all around us from wherever the enemy may come. And it says God will uphold us, meaning he is coming from underneath to support. Guys, God is beside us, over us, inside us, all around us, and underneath us. Therefore, do not fear. Do not be dismayed. But what's it matter? Right? What's it matter if God is with us? I mean, who is this guy anyways? What's he done lately? Right? Think about that. That's important. That's important. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. This is a serious question because we have to ask ourselves, who is God that this matters? Why would it matter? So think about this. If I'm in the weight room, which you'll never find me there these days. If I'm in the weight room looking to push a personal record, right, on the bench, and I need a spotter, do you think I'm going to look the little tiny Tim, the water boy, to come spot me and uphold me and strengthen me and help get the bar off of me? No. I'm going to be looking to the 375-pound lineman, nicknamed the refrigerator, to come and help strengthen me and uphold me and support me in that. For this to mean anything to us, enough to kill our fears, we have to have seen God's proven track record, right? We have to be convinced that what he's done is sufficient to kill all our fears. He has to have a track record of showing up strong. And that's exactly what verses 1 through 9 talk about. We don't have enough time to go through them all, but in those 9 verses, we see God as the judge of every nation around the world. We can appoint our judges, but he is over them all. And then we see that God rules the rulers of all those nations, and he can literally wipe them out with just a word. God brings whole nations into existence because he's the one who is first and who is last. There's no kingdom outside of his that lasts longer than his. His kingdom knows no end. And then it says that God chooses and calls people who are hopelessly far off from God and brings them near and freely lets him be their God. This is the God who has said to you and me, do not be afraid, because I am your God. I am with you. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you. And boy, did he prove it. He accomplished all of this for us in Jesus Christ, who I was reminded of earlier is the right hand of God. He is the righteousness of God, sitting at the right hand of the Father. In Jesus, God is our God under a new covenant of grace. In Jesus, God is with us, Emmanuel. In Jesus, God strengthens us to accomplish his will and stand against temptation. In Jesus, God helps us to know his ways, to pray and what to say. And in Jesus, God holds us up when we stumble and fall. Therefore, do not fear. Therefore, because I am the judge of the nations, therefore, because I rule the rulers of history, therefore, because I call the nations into being, therefore, because I choose freely my own, therefore, because I, the great and sovereign God, am your God, and I am with you, and I will strengthen you, and I will help you, and I will uphold you. Therefore, do not fear. Amen? Guys, this is just explaining the very reason why the angel's first words to Mary and the first words to the shepherds were, fear not. Because the arrival of Jesus was the dawning of a new age of fearlessness for God's people. Fear not. So just like you know this psalm very well, Psalm 23, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because you are with me. God is with us. God, the same God who can part the seas with breath from his nostrils. The same God who can breathe life and topple empires says, I am with you. Guys, can I just ask you, what more can God say? What is something better that he could give? Oh, he could help pay off my debt. No. This is better. Oh, he can fix my house for me. No, this is much better. God is with us. What more are you asking of God than that? There's nothing higher. Because God is with us, because that kills all fear and makes us fearless. So I want us to do a little bit of an exercise want you to do something with me. And what's going to happen is I'm going to say something, and I want you to repeat back to me the phrase, God is with me. And the reason why I want you to repeat that phrase is because it's a phrase I want you to keep repeating every day, every time you're entering into a new situation, every time you're entering into a dark place, every time you're entering into loneliness, every time you're entering into doubt, every time you're entering into loss. God is with me. So let's practice. When I am afraid, God is with me. When I cannot see the way ahead, when I am afraid of dying, when I doubt my own salvation, when I sin against God, when I am surrounded by my enemies, when I lose my own child, when I fail, when I can't find the answers, when I am alone, when I can't make ends meet. Take heart, brothers and sisters. Be fearless. Jesus is born. God is with me. Friends, I recognize that all of us are here tonight because this is part of our tradition. But I also recognize that not all of us here are actually truly believing this, right? That's not meant to be critical, right? Some of you are skeptical of this whole thing called like Jesus and Christianity, right? Some of you maybe are like you're kind of those who like are on the edge of the water and you're touching your toes in, trying to get whether the water's fine, and you haven't yet jumped all the way in. And yet others of you probably are here thinking, you know, I think everything works out in the end, right? No matter what you believe, whether it's Jesus or this or that. It all gets us to God, right? You're wrong. I love you. You're wrong. This is what makes it totally different. Not all religions are the same, because Christianity, this gospel, is the only faith that says that God has come down to be with us so that he might bring us up to be with him. Because no other God, no other gods have said this. No other religion is afforded this same kind of comfort. They only call for morality, right? They all say, do this or don't do this to come be with me, which only leaves everyone in that mindset desperately afraid whether or not they're going to measure up. As evangelical Christianity, this gospel is the only faith where God has said, I have come to be with you, not because of your goodness or your merit, but because of my unstoppable love for you. So this is why you will always, always wrestle with every kind of fear until you come to believe God with us in Christ. Because this good news is the only good news that can truly kill every fear. So do not be afraid. God is with us.